Welcome to the Trek Wars podcast, the one podcast that dares to ask and answer the question, which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars, by going through both franchises in chronological release order. I am Kenny Madison, the Star Trek contingent. With me, as per always, is...
Aspen Webster, co-host with the Mo-host.
Oh, whoa, Aspen. Yeah, stop yelling at me.
Oh, can't stop. I've got too much Mo-host.
And lest we kill this minute before it crashes spectacularly.
Yeah.
That's right. We are talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars Jedi Crash.
Oh.
Versus Elaan of Troyius from Star Trek The Original Series, Season 3.
Fantastic.
Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Truly, possibly.
Yeah?
An embarrassment of riches this week.
Oh, okay. I had this thought. I was just like, I'm going to ask Kenny what he thinks I thought of Helen of Troy. Yes.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
Because there are some regressive gender politics that are very much in play in Elaan of Troyius, and problematic racial dynamics in play. And at the same time, you have a delicious performance from France Nguyen. Or France Nguyen.
Probably, yeah, Nguyen?
Is it N-U-Y-E-N?
Is it Nguyen? It's Vietnamese last name.
Is it Nguyen?
Sometimes it's pronounced Nguyen, sometimes Nguyen, if but usually it's Nguyen.
Oh, it's spelled N-U-Y-E-N.
Nguyen. France Nguyen. Yeah, she was in the Joy Luck Club.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. She was also on Broadway with Shatner.
That's so cool.
She is something else. She is an actor, you know?
And you can feel it this episode. She is.
Pacific. Yeah, dude. She rules.
This episode of Star Trek.
She's in an episode of Murder, She Wrote, my new favorite show.
And a social activist, at least in the 1960s.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it truly could go either way for Aspen.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting you say that. You nailed it. I did start out, I know we'll get into what the episode actually is about, but I did start out a little.
You're absolutely right. New York-based entertainment columnist Joan Crosby previewed the episode Helen of Troy for her syndicated column TV Scout.
Uh-huh.
In this synopsis of Helen of Troy is written and directed by John Meredith Lucas. Guest star Frances Nguyen comes on mighty strong. Nguyen comes on When. Guest star Frances Nguyen comes on mighty strong tonight with her performance as a high priestess of a planet. She is being transported by the Enterprise to another planet where she will be married off as a peace gesture. But she has two things going for her: her aggressive arrogance and a strange set of tear ducts, which manufacture tears that can enslave men like Captain Kirk. First aired January 16th, 1969. Is that correct?
Oh, you know what?
No, it's not correct. It is December 20th, 1968.
Oh, also, I am so sorry. I am wrong about the name. I was thinking it was the Nguyen, which is specifically a last name that is very common. I guess I just saw it. So it probably is Nguyen. You're probably right. So sorry.
Cool.
So sorry.
Anyway, sorry to bowl over your thought.
Oh, wait.
With the synopsis.
Born France Nguyen Vanya. Okay. No, never mind. She just changed the spelling of it, probably.
She anglicized it.
She anglicized it. Yeah. No, I will take that as me giving you a beautiful segue.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I will read the synopsis for The Clone Wars. I will get away from reading about that wonderful, perfect person for a second. Pause, please. That's what happens when it's late at night. Jedi Crash. Star Wars Clone Wars Jedi Crash. Released January 16th, 2009. written by the TV archaeologist on IMDb. General Skywalker is injured while rescuing fellow Jedi General Ayla Secura from super battle droids equipped with rocket packs. Ahsoka Tano crash lands their shuttle on the neutral planet of Merudin, where the native Lurman villagers refuse to take sides in the war. They are, however, willing to send a healer to help Anakin. Oh, yeah, this is an embarrassment of riches type of thing. And I did say it. And this episode is also, I'll go into the details. It was directed by Rob Coleman and written by, interesting, Katie Lucas.
I'm sure that's no one. I'm sure that is absolutely no one. Period. No one.
Yeah, I mean, just people have the same last name, right?
Yeah, Lucas is a very common name.
Yeah, your last name is Webster. My last name is Webster.
That's right. You're so right.
Yeah, just Lucas. It's his daughter, right?
It's his daughter. Yeah,
it's his daughter. Great job, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty fab though. And also interesting on the Rob Coleman, because he was animation direction on others. So yeah, it's pretty
animation director on the prequels.
On the prequels, right? So
and
the others,
you can feel that dynamism.
Yes,
coming in hot.
Yes. There is a lot that is visually dynamic and very appealing and very interesting about this episode. So much happens before they even land on the planet, and then I was just like, how much time is left in this app? And I was like, oh my gosh, and then so much more even happens, and it's just great. And there's so much visually arresting components, and good like emotional back and forths. Anyway,
I dare say, if the rest of the episode kept going like the first half of Jedi Crash, I'd be like 9 territory in terms of
9. You give it a 9?
This episode is really good, but like the first half of this episode was, I was just, it was so compelling, so tense, so interesting.
Well, they talk about in the Filoni Zone, right?
Yeah.
This is like the first time since the films that they've had like a real space battle, like truly with all the components.
Which is, and it's not even in space. It's in the sky. What is it? Because this happens in the JJ Star Wars movies, and the closest that we get to a proper space battle is Last Jedi. Rogue One notwithstanding. Rogue One has a 6 space battle. At the end.
There's the beginning of Revenge. That's just pure space battle just to start. Phantom as a space battle. Return of the Jedi. There's a lot of kind of assorted space battles, but there's the space battle that's it's pre Billy D. Williams. My God. Why Lando? Jesus, Lando taking the Millennium Falcon into the space to like wow, it's wild.
Sorry, no, I was just thinking about the Return of the Jedi space battle and how exquisite it is and how overwhelming that experience feels, and then you add the cross-cutting, which I think is so masterfully done, and it really does pull you along so well.
It does. Oh gosh. Yeah, the stakes of that battle of like we have to get in there, we have to blow this up, but like this has to line up with this going down on the moon while this is happening over here. It's just really fabulous.
And the sensation of speed that goes along with going in the tunnels in Return of the Jedi. Truly exquisite.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary.
Anyways, this Clone Wars battle rules.
It's great.
Love it.
It's so good. There's just things falling from everywhere. There's flying battle droids, which is new. Like the flying, like big bad battle droids. What?
They fly now?
They fly now.
I need to never have bad self-esteem ever again because someone got paid top dollar to write Somehow Palpatine Returned. Not only that, several people got paid top dollar to write Somehow Palpatine Returned. Some people, they came to those people on hands and knees being like, can you please come back to Star Wars? Please, please. Don't let Colin Trevorrow close to our Star Wars. Please.
As someone who works in a company, a tech company, watching constantly as people who are not that smart get paid top dollar. It's the same in all the industries. So I think that like lightens it a little bit. If you just know that all of it is bad.
All of it's
you, right?
Bad.
That helps, right? Bad. Yeah, this is
anyways
a wonder of an episode.
My first impression of Jedi Crash. It's a great episode.
It's a great episode.
It's a great episode. It's definitely far and away my favorite episode of Clone Wars so far.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Interesting. I find that interesting.
I think that's just the space battle is incredible. It's moving along at a clip, and then
I mean, the crash again. They talk about this on Filoni's Oni, but the crash. They talk about how it's there was one in the Clone Wars film, but it doesn't feel as like visceral. Whereas the crash onto this planet is like there's glass, there's breaking, there's stakes. It's scary. There's fire. It's very like physically like visual. Like it just feels so real. It is great. Ugh, there's so much going on that's so good. Also, not to keep going on about the visuals of it, but
how dare you?
Also, do you ever read his Dark Materials, the Golden Compass and the Subtle Knife and the Amber Spyglass?
His Dark Materials, the Golden Compass. Say that one more time.
All three of the books are called His Dark Materials. It's the Pullman book.
Oh, they're books.
Sorry.
I thought that these were items that were painted very dark.
Oh,
does anyone like me?
Yes, I love you very much.
Okay. I know that I just talked about how I never need to have bad self-esteem ever again because someone got paid to write Somehow Palpatine Return. Yeah. But it really just wildly vacillating all the time.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but you don't have to vacillate. You're great all the time.
Well, I can vacillate if I want to. That's the correct answer. Yeah, ding dong.
Sorry, feel whatever feelings you want to feel.
Bad baby. No, it's crazy.
There is just, and I'm pretty sure it's in the Amber Spyglass. There's sort of like other world that they go to. It's been years since I've read it, where there are creatures that like they're like the paths are kind of like roads themselves, and they like kind of have the same rolling thing, and there are these big trees and like seed pods, and it's so reminiscent. I mean, I don't know if that was ever put on screen, but that's like visually in my head, like that's like what was in this Clone Wars episode was a lot like what I imagined reading that book. Mm-hmm. And that's, I can only assume that there is, even if it's like in people's subconscious, that there is a, like an inspiration there. Like it's a very cool, like there's a lot of cool concepts.
Except that Filoni specifically points out his influences in the Filoni Zone.
Yeah, but like, any kind of thing has like influences based on other influences. Like
no, not Star Trek.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Like Star Trek would truly never be Shakespearean. Ever.
No. It's never, ever been Shakespearean. Never.
No. Yeah. It's not famously like called out numerous times as it being inspired by like Shakespearean acting, and then also having like an entire episode that's like exactly like the Taming of the Shrew. The Taming of the Shrew in space.
I just don't know. I don't know what you're talking. Yes, Elaan of Troyius' Taming of the Shrew in space. In my not as well-read mindset, it was definitely like, oh, this is My Fair Lady in space.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah,
because you know, it's the same.
My Fair Lady. Well, they're all inspired by each other. Though My Fair Lady as a story is based on Pygmalion, which is a story written by Ovid, who was Latin. Anyway, we're doing great. Obviously,
Dang.
not only is this like is it inspired by Taming of the Shrew, like it's Elaan of Troyius, and of course that's Helen of Troy. She's
Yes, which,
beautiful.
quite frankly, as a diehard Star Trek fan since literally before I had memories, gotta tell you, Aspen, I
Yeah.
don't think that I had those dots connected until probably reading the literature for this.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm over here, I'm being like, wow, space adventures.
Yeah. Well, that's also just as good and relevant and perfect. Yes.
I'm more of like the book smarts contingent, and you're more of like the street smarts. You're down there, you're
Street
wheeling and
smarts.
dealing.
Oh yeah. I'm like, oh, how is this related to the Greek mythology?
And I'm like, wow, books.
Books. Here I'm gonna tell you my impression of this episode.
Excellent.
Horny app.
Horny app. Because
Horny ass app.
we are friends in real life. We do text, and I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
listeners, folks that are listening to this episode, that's
Yep.
who you are. Aspen, my good friend, one of my greatest friends.
Oh my god.
Aspen texted horny app,
Horny app.
and it also said, "Can we do an hour later on Sunday the 1st?" Is that
But
good?
then I said, no, it's okay. I said, JK, it's fine. This actually works out. It's okay.
We could do an hour later. That's fine.
No, it's good. It's
All right.
better. We figured out our other scheduling thing. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it,
Don't
listeners.
worry about it. We'll figure it out. It's deeply horny.
As soon as I was like, right, enemies to lovers.
Oh, it is.
But for the listener, Aspen just threw themselves through a wall whenever I said that trope.
It like left one of those like cartoon outlines.
That's right.
My like eyes are doing like the wolf bug out thing, and my like tongue is going. Blah, 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 blah. Wow! Yeah, I started out with a touch of the like, oh, she's being treated like a child. And I was like, but I very quickly, when I kind of realized what its core was based on and the power balance, and then also when he says, like, the way he's treating her, I'm like, she's so turned on by this.
Oh,
She
yeah.
loves this. She loves that he's like, hey, you need to like get your act together. There's a line where he's just like, you know, like, if you're going to be this way, like, I'm going to like, you know, do an earth custom and spank you.
I've got the line right here from These Are the Voyages, TOS Season 3 by Mark Cushman and Susan Osborne.
Please dramatically read it.
Elaan, you will not touch me. Kurt, if I touch you again, your glory, it'll be to administer an ancient earth custom called a spanking, a form of punishment administered to spoiled brats.
Do you have that? And then do you have the line that comes later?
No.
So later, after she's kind of used her tears to get him to fall in love with her, she's clearly like way into him, which is its own conversation. But she's just like, tell me. Oh no, maybe it's even before that. But she's basically like, tell me again. I'm like very interested in the spanking. Yes. I love it so much. Oh my god, I'm having
it's a horny app.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago was the first episode where we saw Kirk possibly have sex.
And now he's like, all over it, which I guess we could talk about if you are under the influence of basically the equivalent of a love potion. Is that sexual assault? We could have that conversation. And also, horny app. She is like, all right.
And also, kind of like Dr. Miranda Jones from Is There in Truth No Beauty, it's anchored, this episode is anchored by such a strong central performance that is also multifaceted.
Yes.
Elaan is literally a forceful character throwing stuff across the room, Russell Crowe style. while at the same time possessing a sensitivity. And I think I understand that. I'm watching, I think, the first scene of it's Elaan and Petri, the green-skinned ambassador, in the Uhura's quarters.
Fantastic.
And Petri is behaving. Let me get my notes. I wrote this down of how Petri is behaving. Yes, a cock. Petri is behaving like a cock.
Well, yeah.
But your worship, these are your wedding slippers. Or, my guy, you could practice basic empathy and like match her freaking tone. Right. You're trying to get a square peg to fit into a round hole. Why don't you take out that sander? Sand that hole into being a square hole a little bit.
Oh boy.
Or like make the circular hole that you are just a little bit bigger.
Yeah. It's funny because Kirk's approach is to match her. Which is hot. Wow. Horny app.
Is this a horny app?
I don't know. The jury's still out. It reminds me, I once in college took a conflict resolution class. And that's right.
Wow, I went to college?
Yeah.
No wonder you know about there's a Ovid?
Ovid. I actually learned about Ovid in high school. I took Latin in high school. we
must be nice to have a high school that can afford to have a Latin program.
Oh, let me tell you, it had to do with one single lady who just really loved Latin, and they don't have anything like that now that she's retired. So
wow, must be nice to have a mentor.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually, she was pretty special. Well, listen. That's how I learned about gods too. I was a Latin child because there was like no theater program at my school. And they wouldn't let me go to the high school that did have a robust theater program because I was out of district, which, oh man, I basically had to become a Latin nerd. And then I had to become a theater nerd later in life. That's like how you do it.
I just don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Anyways, how's Los Angeles treating you?
Yeah. So I took this conflict negotiation class in college, and we did this exercise. And it stuck with me because we failed so horribly. And the exercise was like, you get a prompt of like what the problem is and what your role is. So like we were like American construction or investors or something, and we're like in a country, and the other people, we don't know, like the people that are in our group, we don't know what their prompt says, right? We don't know like what their feelings are on the thing, what they've been given on their piece of paper. We just know we have an objective. It's to like build this bridge in this space, and we're in this other country, right? And so we came in, and the purpose of the exercise was to like come to any kind of agreement at all, right? It was to negotiate conflict, and we did not. And their whole thing, it turned out, we came in just like we're gonna do this, obviously, like this will be beneficial for you, and like we're like here in our business meeting, right? Because we're like these American dudes or whatever. And then on their side, it turned out that the whole thing, it was just like this is kind of a made up thing, like a society that's so focused on like connection and family, and like not just doing straight business. It's about like doing like an hour, 30 minutes first of being like, tell me about your family, like what's important to you. And then maybe like having kind of like moving forward with conversations that might take some time, or coming over to dinner or whatever it might be. And so we just like nothing came of our exercise because we just came in guns blazing, kind of literally, like, American like contractors, right? And I've thought of that so often for, when was that? 2010? Like, I think about it when I think of something like this, he comes in, and I think about it like in the work I do with people, like the conversations I have all the time. And like he comes in and he's not listening. Like he's not trying to adapt. He's not even trying to meet. He's still pushing forward with what his expectation of what this thing should look like. And then blaming when he gets hurt, or I mean, obviously she stabbed him. She's fucking.
That's bad.
That's really bad. He has every right to be like, what the fuck? But like he like blames Kirk, and it's like I found it really funny. I mean, it's an interesting character. I love him as a character. But from a like in-text kind of perspective with Star Trek, I'm like, don't they train their diplomats? Like,
Don't
did he not take conflict negotiation?
Don't think
in
about it too
college?
much. No.
But I was thinking about that while watching it. I'm just like, but obviously from a story perspective, it's fantastic because he goes down, he's in sickbay, and so now it's Kirk's turn to be a teacher, and he's gonna come at it with a little bit more force, and he's gonna match your energy, and he's gonna spicker.
He's got to tame that shrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode was an absolute delight to watch. I had fun from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It was great. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was great. I enjoyed it. And the other thing is, you're right. Like her
Thank
central
you.
performance.
It was fun.
Her central performance is so strong.
Mhm.
She's so interesting. She's both fierce and also that moment where she's just like, how do I don't want people to hate me. Like, like the deepest vulnerability, which is like a varied performance, so beautiful. Oh my God. I loved the way she held herself. And I was thinking about this. Sorry I'm talking so much. I don't know. Sorry I'm talking so much on our podcast. I don't know.
What? Sorry. You can only see my video reaction on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TrekWarsPod. Just kind of shaking my head to the left and the right as if to say, huh? What? Huh? What? So sorry that, I mean, it's just, it is a fascinating lesson on empathy, how empathy can go certain ways. Even though, like you said, Elaan literally stabs the ambassador, which, there's limits to empathy whenever you kind of getting stabbed, and suddenly your life becomes the end of an act break on Star Trek. That can become problematic.
Happens.
But at the same time, Kirk is willing to meet her on her level. There's something to be said about that. And whenever you do meet someone on that level, there's a possibility of opening a dialogue.
Right. She only becomes vulnerable because she actually trusts him because
Kirk is willing to place firm boundaries and sometimes smackable boundaries.
Smackable boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I have to tell you, her smacking him, then him smacking her back. That was the moment I was like, she's so hot for him. The moment it happened.
I was turned on whenever she was eating that chicken.
So she took it. It was just like.
Well, not only that, because now that you live in Hollywood, LA, I couldn't help but being like, well, clearly they're trying to establish the dolmen of Elos as someone that's a warrior that is careless with their food, but at the same time, I was like, that's an actor. Because you can tell that she's taking this big honking bite, but really she's taking a really tiny bite.
Yeah.
Because she understands that we've got many more takes to do, so she doesn't want to keep eating chicken all day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very clever, very smart.
My
favorite part was when she picked up the bread and she took a tiny piece of it that went, ugh.
Love it. What? Bread's delicious. A warrior loves bread.
I mean, interesting to point out that, they all eat little colored cubes. And here she is getting a greasy chicken leg and some bread and some fruit.
Aspen, a greasy green chicken leg.
It was green. You're absolutely right. I was thinking about this in relation to other episodes that we call sleepy, where maybe
like
something
what?
Like what?
The empath.
The empath
was sleepy. What's an episode that we both agree that was sleepy? Let's look at the spreadsheet.
The children will lead one. Well, because it's like.
I think that one's worse than sleepy. I think that one's actually bad.
Yeah, but it's the idea that it's like, okay, we did this already. Okay, we came back. Why are we doing this again? And that happens from a storytelling perspective because you don't have anything emotional to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're just filling time, right? And what you're doing is you're hyper focusing on plot for the sake of plot. The thing has to happen. The thing has to happen. An engaging episode of television or a story or a movie is about the people. I mean, I was talking about this with Joel. My partner.
Did you want me to do something?
My partner.
Why are you saying it like that?
My partner.
Aspen, you're blowing out the levels.
No, let's go.
Partner. Okay. You're not gonna do. Okay. And he was like,
Your Pavlovian response is so strong at this point, you're having a meltdown.
I'm like, oh no, you're gonna like surprise me in the middle of another sentence. You're gonna play the clapping. Oh boy. Okay. So I was
Friday's Child.
Friday's Child. Okay.
That's an episode that's sleepy.
Let's sleep.
And also cited in These Are the Voyages season 3 of being very similar because Julie Newmar is playing a very Elaan of Troyius type character where McCoy slaps them.
Oh, that's right.
And she has to learn how to be sensitive because she's going to be a mommy now.
A mummy.
Much like the Elaan here, but instead she's playing mommy to Kirk.
You did it for yourself instead of for me. Okay. Yeah, this episode is, there's action happening. And actually the action itself is related to, at first I was a little like, why'd the Klingons show up? And I got this right? That like the guy that made it so that if you go into warp, they're going to blow up. He basically gave them away to the Klingons because he was upset because he wanted to be with her, and then he kills himself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why the Klingons come. So you have this action set piece happening where the Klingons are like,
well, automatically Starfleet was interested in making sure that the marriage happens.
Right.
Because it is on the border of the Klingon Empire.
Yes.
Which automatically you're like, proxy war?
Yeah, always.
Interesting.
Always a proxy war. Yeah, they have a vested interest in this for this purposes. And yeah, so then the Klingons going to show up, and then there is this thing, but like it is all fundamentally like the action of the thing is driven by the character's feelings and emotions and choices. Like imagine, because
Aspen.
I like to say plot is people. It's relationships. That's what plot actually is.
Aspen?
In Western storytelling.
That's so fascinating that you said exactly that. Because in These Are the Voyages season 3, a great memo from Roddenberry, one of the rare ones.
It's either he says the opposite of what I just said or exactly what I just said.
Also agreed to great majority with your comment in responding to the work that John Meredith Lucas did for this episode, and I think the outline. Agreed to great majority with your comments on John Meredith Lucas's first outlines. They were very much to the point and showed a firm grasp of Lajos Egri, which you read as a small boy in grammar school in the Imperial Valley. Now,
what?
Are you familiar with Lajos Egri? I wasn't. Lajos Egri was a Hungarian-born playwright who migrated to America and, in 1946, Aspen, published The Art of Dramatic Writing, regarded for decades as one of the best works on the subject and easily adaptable to the form of writing novels and screenplays. Hold on to something excitedly. Egri's belief, which Roddenberry and Justman adamantly subscribed to, was that well-defined characters drive a plot. Therefore, the foundation of character is essential to a well-crafted story. Aspen, I'm so sorry. I know that it was a bit of me withholding the applause, but I gotta give it up to you.
Oh, look at me. I'm just parroting things that white men say. It's what I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we teach improv.
Yes.
All right. Used to. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know.
You will again. What are you talking about?
We teach narrative improv.
I
Right.
don't.
Oh, right. I taught narrative improv. You
Yeah.
were teaching. Okay, sorry. I teach narrative improv.
We think about narrative theory a lot. We think about
about-
narrative theory. We think about theater a lot. And we think about, I think about movies all the time. Aspen thinks about movies all the time too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think about story constantly.
We think about story all the time.
And the thing that you run into with narrative improv, which in and of its own right is wild to say, right? You're creating a play from nothing. Is what often happens if, let's say, you go to see one, which you should, and the moment the players start getting so preoccupied with the plot of the thing is the moment it stops being fun to watch.
Yes.
It starts becoming things that you have to justify, where people have to like talk too much. You can feel them pulling away from each other and you don't feel emotionally connected anymore. The best shows are the ones where what we have together as a relationship, the choices I make, the things I believe in, and what our relationship is, drives the next choices. It drives the next thing. It becomes, the idealist of worlds, like a waterfall. It's like, or it's like a gentle, like what comes next, because it almost like you still have to create, but like the best moments are the ones that are just like, well, of course this is the next thing to come, because that has been driven and is so strong that it feels easy. Well,
Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan,
yeah.
a masterpiece of science fiction filmmaking
Mm-hmm.
that feels big, but whenever you think about it, it's pretty darn small. And so much of it, except for a handful of things, are motivated by character decisions.
Yes.
Every once in a while, you'll need an introduction to a new thing, because also whenever those things are introduced, it's in relation to theme.
Right.
Those are plot incidents. Things that those are plot moves. We're introducing this thing. But more often than not, the story is driven by characters making decisions.
Right.
So too happens in Elaan of Troyius.
Mm-hmm.
And Jedi Crash, for the most part.
Oh, Jedi Crash gets into some of my favorite conversations, and my favorite character motivations, which is
Oh my gosh.
Ahsoka struggling with the core tenets of the Jedi because they themselves have not clarified them. And also personal beliefs of, or like the consequences of war, and compassion. So like, there are next choices that are made. Anakin, because of Anakin's compassion and love, makes a choice that gets him hurt. Now that he is hurt, and we are in like a certain battle situation because we have come to rescue, now we are crash landed on a planet. Now that we're on a planet, Ahsoka wants to stay with him because she loves him so much, but like we still have to think logically about the situation. So I make the choice. She makes the choice to do the hard thing. Like everything flows from what are very real emotional stakes with characters that mean something to each other, like truly do. It's been established, and also they reinforce it even more here. So that's what you're getting at. Like,
Yeah, while also getting meditations on attachment,
yes.
what it means to love, and what it means to be. Man, now that I'm just talking about it more, it starts to become even more thematically tight. Because Anakin giving himself because of his compassion, and then the discussions with Ayla Secura and Ahsoka about the nature of attachment versus love, and Ayla's interesting philosophy that I'm not entirely sure that I agree with, of being like, we have to be willing to sacrifice one to save 1,000. But also, it's the power dynamic that is kind of involved with being a Jedi.
Right.
It is not, we have a certain, I mean, that's my head canon. That's not necessarily textual, but the head canon is we are arbiters of power. We must be responsible. We must be willing to give ourselves as examples of what it can mean to love. And then at the same time, you're having that notion challenged. Because in our minds still, especially with the context of Star Wars at this point in time, the Jedi are still big stinking heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we've had gray getting introduced, and this is another episode where that gray gets a little bit more muddied as well by the introduction of the, oh boy, I wrote
Lemurs?
down the name. Yes.
Is that what they are? Because it sounds like lemurs.
Yes.
um
Which is apparently taken from a source manual somewhere.
Yeah, they were originally supposed to be in Return of the Jedi, or
Yes.
or
I don't think Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. They're supposed to be in. Oh yeah, they're much more recent. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith and the Lurmen. That's what they are.
The Lurmen. Yes, and the Lurmen leader is interrogating you. You say that you're keepers of the peace. Meanwhile, we're over here practicing nonviolence.
Yeah,
and that has its own complicated bailiwick attached with it. And I assume because these are now parts of arcs that we will have an answer to what that nonviolence means.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting moral quandary to meditate on, where you are talking about, is peace worth it? Is because they're basically just isolating themselves from the fight, but also the Galactic Civil War, the Clone Wars are a sham to begin with, and it's a tool of control from the evil people. So why fight in the war but they don't know that the destiny of the war is predetermined, no matter
they don't know that.
Who loses, the same person wins. And it's a war of principle for some people that are canonically naive, because Mace Windu and Yoda know that they can't see these things.
What a good point. Because I was having this sense of like, well, what good are you doing to just retreat and go, by the way, quote, colonize a planet that itself already has creatures on it, which, what an interesting form of violence you're not acknowledging. But
say that one more time.
Colonization is violence.
Yes.
However, I will say, for what it's worth, they clearly seem to be trying very hard to live in harmony with it. Like, they don't kill the creatures. They use the seed pods, for, they don't harvest and take. They just take dropped stuff. So for what it's worth,
it doesn't seem like they are displacing anyone, and instead are very much attempting to live in harmony. But at the same time, it's something to disengage with the environment. And also, I mean, the show is wanting us to be like, the Jedi are the good guys.
Is it though? I think what'll happen in the next episode is it will become like, they are the good guys, but maybe not. Like, or at least it's asking us to think it through. I think what you are making me realize is, one of the thoughts I did have was like, this kind of retreat from everything. Like, I would much prefer to see like nonviolent protest, right? Like, to actually draw attention to the thing. If you are so against it, then why not use that power in like the kind of Quaker sense of things, right? Like, Quakers as pacifists are protesters. And like,
I mean, use it in the civil rights movement of disrupting unjust laws.
Right.
As well. It wasn't nonviolence without action. It was nonviolence with action. So you could create so much of a farce that you have no choice but to be like, they're beating people for no reason, because they are sitting. This is unjust.
Right. It's but like, to bring up the fact that the war itself, like the Clone Wars itself, is a farce, right?
Yeah.
They don't know that, but I think probably by their understanding of war and violence, they all are, because they all are fabricated for the purposes of taking power from someone else. Like, I think by their theory of war, it's not like there is one power with this amount of power coming up against a very equal power, and it's always that way, right? Like there is, and it kind of, but actually, I sort of like lost my my train of thought there. I think if it were that, it would be one thing, but like wars themselves are generated in order to disrupt the lives of others. Like often the kinds of what we see is about taking away from others.
Which is what our Jedi probably see. They have seen a galaxy at peace,
Mm-hmm. Right.
i.e., no vastly disruptive wars, and they are wanting to return to that status quo without necessarily. And again, if the prequels were executed better, then we'd be able to have more meaningful conversations. But also, Dave Filoni loves the Jedi. I love the Jedi too. They're cool. They fly. They fly now.
I don't like them.
I understand. So we're trying to have our cake and eat it too, by being like, hey, pretty interesting, as opposed to what it is, which is a textually within the text of the Star Wars franchise. So far, we know that the Jedi cannot see what's going on.
That's true. They don't know that this is a farce.
And they haven't told the people. They haven't been responsible by being like, our powers are limited. We know something is going on, but we can't see it. Therefore, we need someone to help us.
You know, there's sort of a like this post 9/11, you know, like the veneer of the thing of, or not even post 9/11, like post Vietnam War, frankly. Like World War II, of course, there's this classic. It's held up as, and this is like there feels there's like the last time there was a clear baddie and goodies, right? Like we are obviously stopping the march of fascism. Are we? Yeah. I mean, yeah, we were obviously like then, but then in subsequent,
we were stopping.
We were
one person nakedly grabbing for power and doing heinous things.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, a lot of the superpowers had the good graces to be able to make that creeping fascism behind closed doors.
That's exactly the way to describe it. Thank you. Yeah. Like just we know you're going to do it. Just do it where we can't see.
Yeah.
Right. And then post that with Vietnam War, Korean War, any kind of engagement we've had since then, Afghanistan, Iraq, Gulf War, like all of these are themselves so muddied and so muddled, where to the point where you have to fabricate the idea that there is a bad guy and a good guy that is exclusively that, right?
Which also takes away power from the fact that the folks that we were technically going after were heinous people to begin with, but like you could have done those in strategic operations as opposed to like going, committing entire military forces and losing how many lives?
Yeah. I mean, but war is like nationalism is huge. And if you come at it from that perspective of like, this is all a fabrication to, put money in the pockets of contractor or like, like war profiteers or for your rich buddies, right? Like, and you can imagine this colony of pacifists being like, none of this is fucking real. And of course, the counter to that is, but people are dying, and this is worth your protest if you truly believe this, and you should believe this, right? And also, they deserve to live safely.
Like, is it cowardly for them to be like, we deserve a safe life?
Right. I don't honestly think so. Like,
yeah,
that's such a huge ass galaxy, and they're just like, fuck, I thought we got away from it.
That's true.
So many planets, and they're just like, no.
Yes, it's not like they moved to Tahoe or like, we're just going to stay on the lake from now on.
Right.
We'll fly our giant American flag and just live at Tahoe, and we get all of our groceries delivered.
Right. They're like, we're going to literally get the fuck out of here. We're not even going to like disrupt the native flora and fauna. Truly, we're going to just like try to live in harmony. God damn it. Hey, why are you here? Like, of course they're mad, And then of course they're still good. They are good, kind people.
Yeah.
So it's a real head scratcher. And then I know I've seen this before, but I'm almost certain that we're gonna have the sort of like the equivalent of the like that last episode, like the Bombad Jedi episode, where it's like, oh, sorry, now the Separatists are here and they're trying to kill us, and we really have to pick a side or something. That's probably,
Mhm.
which I don't like, and hopefully I can't remember if it turns out that way or not, but because I think it's good to stay in this gray area and keep thinking about it because it's interesting. And we got plenty of time to be in that conversation, So
Yeah, man. We didn't even delve into it. Was brought up barely, but the attachment that Ayla and Ahsoka have in regards to attachment and love. Because now,
no.
a little birdie told me
Uh-huh.
that you have
Me?
some issues
What?
with the Jedi lifestyle
Hmm.
and how attachment is forbidden.
Was I the bird?
Yeah,
It
you were
was
the
me.
one.
I told you like 5 minutes ago.
That's true. What do you think about that conversation?
I in the moment I was like, she's doing a much better job than Luminara did.
Sure.
I like it a little better. Goodness, I need to actually rewatch or read their back and forth because I think that it is a very I don't think it's a bad thing to be like, yeah, we cannot sacrifice one person, or we cannot sacrifice like hundreds of people for one person. Like,
Yeah.
if you are in a position where you are,
Well, I guess we did talk about this a little bit, but it's in terms of it's not. It's fair for us because each one of them are making a choice, even though the way that we understand the Jedi, not necessarily, because it seems like you might be indoctrinated into it. But theoretically,
Mhm.
I think the show is possibly saying don't really know. It could also just Dave Filoni be making just broad gestures to things that are meaningful, but you need to interrogate it just a little bit further. It is perceived as noble to sacrifice one life to save 1,000. Yes.
It's very Spock.
Yes, but also it has to be their choice to sacrifice that life. Are you participating with an assistant that allows you to make that choice freely, or are you making that out of social pressure?
I guess
are you
fundamentally you are accepting the responsibility as a Jedi by your that tenets to say like, I am entrusted with this responsibility, and like that's how they can do their thing, right? Because it's oh god, because they're cops, right? Like,
Yeah.
like they're cops, and so if you can imagine if cops actually like were good at what they did, they would have a way of also like engaging with this thoughtfully of like, what is my responsibility to this society as a person who is who's supposed to be keeping people safe. Like there is more of a like, you and I, we're not Jedi, we're not people with that societal responsibility necessarily. Like,
no, I'm a podcaster that teaches improv comedy.
Right. Like, yeah, would I save you and let 100 people die? Probably. But I don't have to be the one to make those choices often. Often. I did the other day.
Would you sacrifice your podcasting co-host to save the lives of 100 Aspen? Yes. Yes. Where do I sign? What? Hold on, Aspen. I mean, you answered that question pretty quickly. I'll do it. I'll sacrifice Kenny. That's fine. Let's do it.
Yeah. But
also, maybe the system that has to sacrifice one for 1,000 deserves to burn.
Yeah, and I think that's the further interrogation of like, well, have you created this situation? Like what have you created versus like what is actually necessary? And it's like the societal rules you make up to have like shortcuts to things. And I think I remember I can't remember exactly what Ahsoka said, but I said out loud to no one. I was just like, this is why I love Ahsoka, because it felt like she was responding to something Sakura was saying, as if to say, I don't like these aren't her words, but it's like, why is this so like living in such absolutes? Um, like we can both love, and I know only Siths deal in absolutes. I know. Like we can both love and feel deeply, and also recognize this role and responsibility we have. And like it's like almost childish, I feel like, to reduce it to such a level. And she said something along the lines of like, why can't both things be true? And I think that like is laying the groundwork for the kind of person Ahsoka is, who is like what she'll later do, which I've told you a billion times. Like she leaves the Jedi Order, and we know you've seen Ahsoka. She leaves the Jedi Order. She's not a Jedi, like, and she's better for it, you know. But she gets to keep all the things that rule about them, and then also be a little bit more fucking like thoughtful about it. So
This could frame the discussion even more,
mhm.
which is our fortune cookie at the beginning of the episode. This feels pretty clear cut
Yeah.
on this. Greed and fear of loss are the roots that lead to the tree of evil.
I thought about that a lot because greed and fear of loss says to me more of the fear of losing your power versus the fear of like losing someone you love. Because it feels very strange to put greed and fear of loss together unless you're talking about something specific like that.
Except that, I mean, it's been coded within the prequels that we know what those two things mean in tandem. That's emotional.
Sure.
That is romantic love,
Or
which is
familial
selfish.
love, familial love.
Familial
too.
love. Yeah.
You are greedy for wanting to save your mother. Fuck. Sorry, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of throwing around drastic words, but sir, there are still hundreds of droids on that ship. Remember this line from the beginning of Jedi Crash? Because we've talked about droid personhood
Yeah.
a little bit, and it's been kind of nebulous so
Yeah.
far. We've been there's another wrinkle. A separatist ship with a general on that ship given orders, and the droid pleads to the general on the separatist ship because they want to shoot down the little baby Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
And the droid goes, but sir, there are still hundreds of droids on that ship, as if to be like, they're my best friends. What, you can't do this.
Well, and it's complicated even more by the fact, and he's just like, I don't care, shoot him down. And it's complicated even more by the fact that he is also a droid. That is a droid. Like it's so funny, we don't like talk about that a lot, that like one of the major separatist groups is droids.
Yeah.
This like droid federation. Like, yeah. As soon as that happened, I was like, a self-hating droid. Actually, I had a lot of thoughts on that. I know you're getting at something specific, but I was like, why didn't the Republic just start creating droids to also fight, so we didn't have to worry so much about human beings dying? And then I was just like, well, we had already invested in all the human beings, and this is a cost measure. Like, what are you going to do with all those clones if not put them into battle? I started going through a variety of different thoughts based on that scene.
Well, it wasn't until Andor that we found out the answer.
Yeah.
Humans are cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. They are fun. And then that was
Which
I
is
was just like, dude, has a lot of money. Yeah, it's the whole thing.
A devastating answer. And also simultaneously a hand wavy answer, because then you have to be like, but how are they cheaper? It doesn't matter. Yeah. They're cheaper. That's why.
Yeah, then that makes sense. But you're right. Like it is this comes up, and it kind of, it becomes like just like there's a horror element to this, and then also like, disposable.
Yeah, clones are disposable, and droids are disposable, and also we're starting to get clones to be people too.
When they were killed, like the faction that goes off to try to get help, and they're killed by the vulture lion lizards. 3 guys die, and I was actively like, oh, this is horrifying. Like, those
Yeah.
are your buds. Like, they're just fucking dead. Oh, it hurt. But yeah. Yep. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. When you were talking about attachment and love, you were talking about Star Trek as well. And I went off hardcore on the Jedi path, but what were you talking about with the other side of it too?
In the sense that I am attached to Star Trek and I love it.
No, you were talking specifically about
Because I love Star Trek.
I mean, tell me about your attachment. Would you give up Star Trek to save 100 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, Star Trek.
It would hurt, but well, unless it was like 100 like Trump supporters, maybe.
Oh, jeez. I mean, that would get into really. No, you're talking about Elaan and like attachment as well.
Sure.
And like love. I don't know if you had any thought with that or specifically.
I mean, whereas Star Wars seems to be trying to go out of its way of being like, nah, man, can't have friends. Friends are selfish. Can't have like these strong attachments. Nah, man. Star Trek is over here being like, having close friends will literally save the galaxy.
Like in this episode?
Well, it's Star Trek
In
overarching.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Not necessarily in this
Star
episode.
Wars doesn't say that, by the way. The like theory of the Jedi does. Star Wars says having close friends will literally save the galaxy.
Except that our fortune cookie this week is greed and fear of loss.
Yeah, for the fucking Jedi. They're not it. They're not all that.
Maybe that's why Mandalorian is completely devoid of emotion, because Filoni was like, attachment is forbidden.
Oh my God, get over here, everybody. So the thing about this episode was
George was saying that attachment's forbidden.
George said, oh, it's good you're doing your impression.
I'm working on it. I'm workshopping. Right now, it kind of sounds more like Matt Besser than Filoni, although they kind of speak with a similar nasal quality.
George
says. We were talking with George, and George was like, what if he was just a robot that was made of rust? And so we really took the ball and ran with that. And so we were like, what kind of a robot would be rusty? And we built out this whole ecosystem.
That's really good.
Meanwhile, George would be like, what if like a robot was rusty? I'm going to go get a Diet Coke.
Diet Coke.
And Filoni's like, genius. George did it again.
Oh, yeah.
He takes off his hat and salutes him.
Salutes. Well, I guess it's like a really good bit. I'm just like, there is a thing though in the episode where the tears of Elaan, they make Kirk fall in love with her, and he's fundamentally attached to her.
Which I gotta say, we're talking about character decisions and plot decisions. This is a total plot decision that I think actually is kind of detrimental to the progress of the episode.
I was thinking,
I think you could just have their chemistry be totally normal as opposed to like having it be a compulsion.
Too. Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, what if you just genuinely fell hard for her?
She's crying.
Yeah,
and Kirk sees this extremely headstrong, which we know that he's attracted to headstrong ladies.
My God, absolutely.
And then he sees that she has other feelings too, and suddenly she's well-rounded in so many ways.
Right.
And like, just let it happen that way. And instead, it's this plot mechanic that is invented by Bob Justman, who is like, what if she has magic powers?
I'm totally with you. Like, it seems like one of those choices where it's like, you know what? Why? Genuinely. And it's kind of like how in Wonder Woman 84, a movie that I enjoy.
A good movie.
But you know what is so distracting about that film?
The fact that Chris Pine is in another dude's body?
Yes. And she is like having sex with another man's body that he has not given consent to. Like the implications of it are so wild, and it actually kind of like, it makes it hard for me to enjoy, even though I really like that movie. And I feel like
what I liked about Wonder Woman 84 is that I thought it was good.
Yeah. Well, they could have just as easily had that not be a thing at all.
It's true.
Like, why? Why put it in there? Like,
Mhm.
just have him come back or something. Or be in a dead guy's body. I don't know. Like, do something. Like, that's just not that. Like, it's fucking insane. And all you had to do was just not do it. And I
Yeah.
feel like that has the same vibe here where it's like, no, why didn't you just not do it? It's a hat on a hat, you know? Just like, just do it. Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it.
But they did it because it was a whole
but-
bunch of white boys writing this.
But it does make for a really great Shatner performance that is very like you can tell that he's like so conflicted, which he
Mhm.
wouldn't have been without that. I would
Whenever he
say.
gets caught by Spock and McCoy, and
oh,
he is instantly so ashamed.
yeah.
And because McCoy and Spock are ride or die for Kirk, it's not
Mhm.
like, Kirk, what are you doing?
Right.
They're like, you touched the tears, didn't you? Or they're like, no, I think Spock is like, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah. They're pretty worried. And then they're like, oh shit, you did this thing. They're just like, fuck. And-
George wanted there to be magic tears. And so what me and Henry Gilroy did is we sat down with our concept artists and we thought about what kind of a race would have magic tears. And we thought of this beautiful water planet that was coming out of this pulsar. And it looked like...
You're doing so good. Yeah. By the end of the episode, McCoy comes out and is like, well, I found, I figured out an antidote. It turns out that the tears create it's a kind of infection, and I've found the cure for it. And Spock's like, Doctor, I don't think that we're going to need that because he already has the cure, which is basically that he's already obsessed and tied to the ship, which is a woman.
Woman.
Yeah. And he's just like,
look, I appreciate being unsubtle. I'll stand on a pedestal and be like, subtlety is overrated. At the same time, do you really need to connect the dots as opposed to just like having a lingering shot of Kirk like pointing on the bridge
and just like
and stuff and like doing Star Trek stuff,
touching the walls,
giving them
just
walls
giving
a little kiss.
just giving a little kiss, putting his boots back on to show that he has fucked the ship.
Speaking of which,
a long time ago, stardate this week, I courted a beau, dated a geek, but none of them could warp my drive into hyperspace. The best of both worlds kept me in second place. Captain's log on a holocron, I wanted a snog, I penned a song, 17 more minutes of thighs in super high def. Aboard the USS Enterprise, DTF. Don't you take my Ewok glider and clip it. Don't you take my red shirt buddy and nip it. If you spill the tea, I'm gonna sip it. I starship it.
what are we doing, Aspen?
We are gonna name our favorite starships that ship through the sky. Our favorite ships that people go and kiss in the sky.
All right. Aston, what do we got? What do we got this week?
What do we got? What's our favorite ship? Our favorite
man.
vehicle ship? I feel like there are quite a lot of ships to choose from.
In Clone Wars.
In Clone Wars, specifically. I mean, there is a pretty significant ship in Star Trek.
There's a significant one that we have. I guess you could put an asterisk on it a little
This is
bit
the
because
first. Oh, yeah.
we technically have seen it in the Enterprise incident already.
Okay. So it's not the first actual.
It is the first filmed appearance of the Klingon the D7 Klingon cruiser that was supplied to them by AMT model makers.
Okay.
This is the first like script appearance of it, but if you're watching Enterprise Incident, you're like, oh, these are there's a Klingon Romulan alliance that's going on
Right.
here.
That's right. I remember.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Because this is the first time that we've seen these ships. That's because this episode was filmed. It was the second episode filmed with the season, but the opticals were taking longer because there's a space battle and they'd never made a Star Trek before. So like this stuff takes a while. And it was either that or Enterprise incident that would be on camera first or be aired first. And as we talked about in our Enterprise incident episode, they wanted to air that faster because of current events.
Current events. That's right. There's two space battles. There's a space battle in this one and a space battle in the Star Wars episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna name the one I like the one for today is called the Munificent Class Comms Frigate. It is the ships, it's the Banking Clan frigate. So it's the warships that are being used to like fire upon Sakura's people and their ships. So I just liked the look of them. I was like, I don't think we've ever done this before. And since we're having a space battle, I was like paying a lot of attention to the different ships in it. And I just think it has a cool little shape to it. It kind of looks like, they just look like strange, like short, stubby submarines. Just like a cool vibe. Into it. And I like the name of it.
I love submarines so much, Aspen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to go on one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe not too deep. Don't go too deep.
I go to the bottom of the ocean.
Oh boy. Go see that Titanic.
Yeah, I'd see that Titanic, yeah.
Go see that Titanic. Did you see that a couple of other billionaires died recently? Not in a submersible, but they did die off of a ship. This is called making appropriate sacrifices to the sea gods. Anyway, go on. What's yours?
Because you put the thought in my head, I'm gonna do the Klingon D7.
Yeah. Okay.
Because technically the other one was a Romulan D7.
There you go. This one's real. Yeah, it was, by the way, because I wasn't sure if you wanted to choose it, but the ship that they do crash land on the planet is a very cool ship as well. I thought that you might take that one, but I'm glad you took the warship.
Yeah. Again, as I talked about in the Enterprise Incident episode, it's another like stone cold brilliant design from Matt Jeffries, while also incorporating all of his design philosophies for Star Trek. It just looks so good. Oddly, not like anything that you've seen, but at the same time, you're like, kind of bird?
Kind of bird?
How can I ever consider myself a smart person whenever my analysis boils down to kind of bird?
Hey, Kenny.
Yeah, boss.
The smartest people could find the most relatable things to use. The most relatable words. So, you did it. You're a smart guy. You're like, if a guy...
What are you gonna do? What's going to happen?
What is that? Smart.
I'm like, if a guy was smart...
Do you see what I just did? I just proved my point.
Oh, hold on. I got to write that in the show notes.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about who we want to kiss.
Yeah, let's get down to brass tacks, Aspen.
Can I do it? Can I take it?
Yes.
Elaan and Kirk.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
No.
Listen, is it problematic? Yes. What isn't? Is it?
Lots of things. Baby cats?
Oh, they're so good. But sometimes their little sharp claws get you, and that's a problem.
Puppies with their they just want to lick you, and they manage to get your nose, and they're also so...
Pee all over the floor. Problems.
Your partner, Joel?
Okay, don't try to trick me.
No, Aspen. Your partner, Joel.
He's a human being. We're all problematic. Stop looking at me like that. He listens to this podcast.
Joel, that's right. Before we started recording, Aspen was like, Joel said the most racist thing, and I love him so much, but at the same time, I was like, maybe. Oh boy.
You're like,
anyways,
I can't wait to get Aspen and later on.
Yeah.
That was problematic.
And you repeated it, and I was like, yeah, unequivocally, it's extremely racist.
Unequivocally. Yeah, but it's okay if someone else said it, I can say it, like I'm just saying what they said.
Yeah, it was wild whenever you bookmarked your story about Joel with those things.
Yeah. Anyway, it's enemies to lovers. It's hot. I'm sure she spanked her. She seems to really be into him too. Obviously, he's love potioned, but like she's rolling to him. She opened up to him. She likes him. They're like little combos that are so sad about duty. Like, we didn't even talk about the fact that like it fucking sucks that she is basically being used. She's not basically, she is actually being used as a tool of diplomacy. She's being married off to someone she doesn't want to marry. She doesn't want to fucking do this. She doesn't want to go live on a planet that's not her planet. Like, she's being subjected to rules that are not the rules of her planet. Like, by the way, they're all just like, it's like there's like a way that you should always be behaving. And it's like, she lives on a planet where that's not the way you behave. Like, it's awful for her. Like, this is really bad. And like, I'm glad that she got to get sex before she did that. We didn't even talk about that. God, like, man.
Oh my gosh, that's right. She's getting married off for political purposes.
Yeah, it's fucking awful.
And it's kind of like, wow, I sure have learned my lesson on how to get married for political purposes.
Well, I think what I like about the performance is there is a feeling there that also is just like, and this is still shitty. Like, but I guess like if we have to comply with our duties, you too, as the captain of this ship and as a member of Starfleet, you have your own duties. I have my duties. Yeah, like she doesn't, it's almost like she's like, well, I have to do this for the duty. That doesn't mean I'm happy about it. And there's something really powerful in that. Like the way that she had like set her jaw. Oh gosh, she rules. So
that's great and all. You keep speaking about duty. However, Elaan and Kirk is not endgame. You know what is endgame until he kills himself? Elaan and Crichton. You know that those two had fun sex.
Did
and
they?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
But Crichton's just a little bit too attached as opposed to Elaan, who is like, whatever, you're just another boy. And she says that. You're just another boy. But Crichton, meanwhile, is just like, you don't understand. That was the best sex I have ever had and will ever have. So I am going to kill myself and sell you out to the Klingons.
Yep. Yeah.
And you know that she was liking it, and he's like pretty good because also he's a guard.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's toned.
Yeah. So it's at least like probably active.
Yeah. And so they banged. They had a fun night, and she was able to get over it, but he wasn't.
Yeah. Leading to the most dramatic thing you could ever do. Sell out the woman that ghosted you and kill yourself.
Pretty dramatic. Well, that's not all that's pretty dramatic. So too is the central conceit of our podcast. Which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars? So let's go back to the central conceit. Which is better? Making noises. Let's cut that out and post. There we go.
You're having a stroke.
Yeah, I was. From Star Trek, the original series, season 3, Elaan of Troyius versus Star Wars, The Clone Wars, season 1, Jedi Crash. Aspen, why don't you go ahead and start first with Jedi Crash?
Jedi Crash. Jedi Crash. Jedi crashing. 7.8.
7.8. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
For any particular reason?
I'm with you. It was a dynamic, interesting episode. I really liked it. We talked a lot about concepts that I think are very interesting, and I appreciate them bringing up a lot of emotional, connective moments. The dynamic, the animation is beautiful. It's great.
Yes. Well, I'm giving it an 8.2.
There you go.
episode was so dang good. We didn't even talk about our rolling
dear.
boy.
Oh yeah, the sweet baby boy. The leader of the
Wag 2.
Wag 2, his son.
Who, in order to they have to return to the ship in order to grab Anakin, and Wag 2.
In order to Wag 2.
In order to Wag 2, the character Wag 2 starts rolling from the encampment of the Lurmen, and apparently, canonically, doesn't stop until they get to the ship to get Anakin. What a dizzy boy!
What a dizzy boy! Yeah,
along with that extremely thrilling opening chunk that I just cannot get enough of. And I believe that is our highest rated episode that we have done for Star Wars.
Fantastic.
In a good long while, not counting the special editions. No, that's our last highest episode was Clone Wars Volume 2.
Oh man, we really did
for Star Wars, but still anyone's game.
Could
Jedi
be.
Crash that currently stands at an 8. Aspen, what do you rank Elaan of Troyius?
I did have a thought while I was watching this.
Awesome. That's why we have a podcast, you ding dong.
One single thought.
One singular thought.
What would this episode, how would I have taken it in if it happened in the first season? Like, would I have been like, oh, this is good, but not as good as some others or something like that?
Oh, I think it would be a Stone Cold classic. And just because, yeah, absolutely. Because you have a dynamite central performance with France Nguyen as Elaan. What a strong, nuanced performance.
Yeah,
it could have been so easy to be one or the other. It could have been easy to have those two emotionalities feel completely split. And instead, it is threaded pretty darn well with these things. I think it's great. I think if it were the first season, it would be a classic. I think if it was the second season, it would be a classic.
You convinced me.
Yeah.
Is it considered a classic?
For third season, yes.
For third season, it is.
I like that I just went on being like, it would be a classic no matter what season. And then I immediately qualify it with, well, it's a classic for the third season.
Yeah, I am going to give it a 7.5.
Oh man, you do love to see it.
Yeah. Yes, I think that makes sense. I'm overthinking this. Fucking enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the central dynamic. A couple of things that I think could have been a little different, but just a banger, a real banger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 0.5. You got guards in brown face.
I can't believe it. Can't believe you got me.
you got guards in brown face. That's not excusable.
Sure.
They know better.
Sure. They should know better. I mean, the Klingons are still in brown face.
Yeah. It's bad.
He's in brown face. You're absolutely right. You're not wrong. Oh, but you know what that does make me think of?
But sorry, to keep on this. Sure, yes. The Klingons are in brown face, but also the guards are in brown face. And you have a Vietnamese actress who is clearly playing other.
Yes.
Even though it's, clearly playing Egyptian. And then you have, okay, great. So you opened your casting base. Wonderful. For a dynamite performance, an excellent performance. There's no other actors of Vietnamese descent in Los Angeles.
Right.
None that can stand there and guard a door.
Yeah, sure.
You had to put some honkies in brown face.
No, you're absolutely right. That deserves it.
And that makes me a hero.
To its credit, I know that she was playing I perceived it as like you did, less Egyptian, more like Greek, right? Like almost like, or a kind of like, I guess I was taking it in. Of course, it is coming from the perspective of a white person who's not like living with, I'm not an Asian person, not a Vietnamese person, but it did feel very distinctly like it was she herself was not being othered. Like she is like this kind of foreign type, like foreign coded creature. Like
Mhm.
they're so different from us.
Yes.
But I feel like it didn't rely upon that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
It doesn't help that she is coded as a brute savage.
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. But
But also the performance. I really enjoy this episode, but also if I'm giving out arbitrary points, look, there's no excuse. Nah, man.
sure.
Nah.
Right. Yeah. Or
could've-
also, they don't even need to be like, they could just be white guys.
Yes.
I imagine that is a planet with people of many skin tones.
Yeah.
They could just be white guys.
Yeah.
Black guys, even. Or Asian people, like, so, yeah. The limitations.
Which
They
means
probably thought they were being so cool. They probably thought they were being like, look at us. Yeah.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We cast a person that's not white. Way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Me, Gene
Yeah.
Roddenberry, who did it all.
I did it all.
Even though John Meredith Lucas came back from being showrunner to write and direct this episode.
Mhm.
And Fred Freiberger, being the good guy that he is, was like, yeah, he's good. I wanted him to come write and direct this episode.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
It was good.
It was, yeah, but apparently not good enough, as Elaan of Troyius' paltry 4 versus Jedi Crashes 8, which means Aspen,
Yep.
Star Wars wins the week.
Sure does. That's right. My babies. My babies. Because as we established, I hate Star Trek so much, and I only love Star Wars.
You know who else is our babies?
Do you have children?
Yeah. And they're our patrons. You can go to patreon.com/TrekWarsPod to get early versions of our episodes, extended versions of our episode, and comment and stuff like that. And you too could join the fine auspices of fine folks such as Timbo DeSosa, Kevin Miller. I don't know why I skipped over that. Heidi Rogers, Arizona Mark, Austin Aaron, and lastly, but certainly not leastly, Joel T. Partner, who composed our I Starship theme song.
And did not say anything racist earlier. That was a joke.
All right. If you want to support us on Patreon, help us cover the bills, you can start off at $1 where we will literally just say your name on the air. It's fine. And every single bit happens and helps. Mr. Tosin Awofeso helped compose our theme song. And by helped compose it, I mean, he composed our theme song.
What time is it, Kenny? Like almost 1 a.m.? Is that what's happening?
We're getting to actually prime Kenny operating hours.
Okay.
If you would like to leave us little witticisms, why not send us an email, trekwarspod@gmail.com, or visit us on social media, on Instagram @trekwarspod. And additionally, if you would like to watch this podcast and see Aspen gesticulate with things such as go over to YouTube, youtube.com/@trekwarspod. Anything else, Aspen?
Nope. Nothing from me. It's not even 1 a.m. for me, but I'm sleepy.
Have we not heard the chimes of midnight? Yes. Yes, we have. May the force be with you and live long and prosper.
I love you, Kenny.
Love you, Aspen.